it's time for Lefties Losing It. Now, I presume this next item was an April Fool's Day joke, but apparently it's real. Kamala Harris is set to be paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to headline a real estate conference in Australia on the Gold Coast. And wowee, one of those land rats love hearing an inspirational speech from this fine orator.
I can imagine what can be and be unburdened by what has been. You know?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
You know, when we talk about our children, I know for this group, we all believe that when we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community. We all watched the television coverage of just yesterday. That's on top of everything else that we know and don't know yet, based on what we've just been able to see. And because we've seen it or not doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but just limited to what we have seen.
Oh gosh, I miss her. Now, you may have heard of the concept of FAFO, where you F around and find out. Well, this next dude found out all right. Here he is being confronted by the owner of the Tesla he vandalized, allegedly.
Write a check. You just bought a Tesla.
I can wipe it off
with
a towel.
No,
it's not.
No, it is a hate crime, sir. It is a hate crime. Did you write a swastika on there?
I'm sorry you're upset.
Did you write a swastika?
It didn't even work.
I'm sorry you're upset. It didn't even work. Really? These lefties are vile. Let's go back to that interaction and see if this guy understands that the FAFO equation is real. The more you F around, the more you're going to find out.
It's at the police right now. It's being fingerprinted.
What do you mean it's being fingerprinted?
Because they're trying to track you down. Thankfully, Facebook tracked you down.
I said, I'm sorry.
For what?
And I apologize.
For what?
I have nothing against your car, and I have nothing against you.
So why would you write a swastika on a Tesla?
Obviously, I have something against Elon Musk, but that's not the way to show
So Elon Musk owns that car? Because it was bought and paid for. It was bought and paid for a long time ago.
That's why it's misguided, and obviously I did not intend to do this.
Oh, he didn't mean to do it. He doesn't like Elon Musk. He's since been charged with a number of offences, including criminal mischief and harassment. Now, this mindless vandalism from the left is nothing new, nor are attacks against cars. They've been doing it for years. It just wasn't directed exclusively to Teslas in the past. Here is an oldie but a goodie. A lefty caught keying a vehicle because it had a pro-Trump sticker. I think he's more scared of the wife than the cops. Imagine being married to this aging soy boy.
The green Toyota Tundra pickup truck that you walked up to, you don't remember what you did? What did you do to it?
I scratched it.
Why? Was it the bumper sticker? And she's got a sticker that says, "Let's go Brandon" or something.
Yeah, I guess it infuriated me.
That's the only reason you did it? You don't know who owns the truck or anything?
Yeah, that's the only reason I did it.
Was it a key?
No, it's my key fob. Yeah.
Do you know which key you used?
No, I have no idea.
I'm guessing you know it's expensive to repaint a truck.
I'm gonna have to repaint the truck.
Did you?
Stupid, idiotic, and I'm gonna get something in the truck. Get that fucking much up.
And you should.
Yeah.
But
I made a stupid mistake.
Mr. Brothers, here's the unfortunate news. She wants to press charges, so I have to take you to jail, sir, so I need you to turn around. When you damage someone's property over $1,000, it's a felony.
And Kevin Connell 3. We're treating on you.
For a felony criminal mischief.
That's a felony?
It's about $6,000 to repaint the truck. He has to go to jail, and tomorrow morning he'll have first appearance in front of a judge.
Stupid.
Don't.
And I regret to inform you that the awfuls are at it again. Awfuls, that stands for affluent white female lefties.
It's time to speak up. They're rolling back segregation. They are rolling back segregation. To be clear, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is still in place and has not been disbanded. But we know what their goal is. There is always step one in a process, and we absolutely know what their goal is.
She must think if you repeat something, it makes it true. Let's hear from this white saviour and her fever dreams about Trump bringing back segregation like he's some sort of Democrat.
This time, white people, we are the ones that are going to be on the front crossing that bridge. Do you hear me? We are the ones that are going to stand in the streets. Our black countrymen have done their time at the front of the lines, and it is our turn. It is our turn to face the water hoses and to face the dogs and to face the tear gas, because we have let this happen. Not on my watch.
Not on her watch, folks. Imagine being so unhinged with fantasies about the return of segregation. Do these people have jobs? By the way, that video has had millions of views, gone viral on TikTok and elsewhere. Perhaps this next lady saw this video because she seems rather animated and thinks she's going to encounter white-only signs across America.
Let me walk into a business and see a whites-only sign. I'm white. I'm about as white as they get. Look at how pale I am, ma'am. And I will use every ounce of that white privilege I've got to absolutely up their day.
This next woman is perfectly okay with property being destroyed.
Destruction of property is a perfectly viable source of protest. No harming humans, obviously. Yeah. Human life is sacred no matter whose it is. But property these are just things. These are just cars.
They're just cars? I wonder if she'd call the cops if I destroyed her Subaru. And bad news, white men, these awfuls will not date you. I just hope you can cope with the devastation and pick up the shattered pieces of your life.
Friendly reminder, as a white American woman, I will no longer be dating white men. I'm looking for anything other than a white man, okay? Just a heads up.
Yes, these women are just heroes in their own lunchtimes, and they are so divorced from reality that they have no idea how awful they appear to normal people. Listen to this story.
I found out today that somebody that I work with is a conservative, and he's somebody who's really intelligent, and he's somebody who works in climate tech as a super smart guy, somebody I would never have thought was conservative, and apparently he is. And it's surprising, and it's disgusting. But what's most surprising to me is the level of sudden hatred that I have for him. Sudden hatred for this man who I used to respect suddenly just went boop, and I hate him now.
Now to 60 Minutes and Leslie Stahl, who is rightly being criticised for this absurd question to American-Israeli man Keith Segal, who was kidnapped and starved by Hamas terrorists.
I saw sexual assault with female hostages.
Keith says things got worse for him after Aviva was released and that early ceasefire collapsed.
The terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so?
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me, and they would often eat in front of me and not offer me food.
What in God's name was she thinking? Yes, the Hamas terrorists don't have food, Leslie. Do any of them look emaciated at their sick hostage handover rallies? Now, let's hear from the White House press secretary, who is furnishing the hostile media with some unwelcome facts and figures about tariffs imposed by other nations on US products.
Look at the unfair trade practices that we have. 50% from the European Union on American dairy. You have a 700% tariff from Japan on American rice. You have a 100% tariff from India on American agricultural products. You have nearly a 300% tariff from Canada on American butter and American cheese. This makes it virtually impossible for American products to be imported into these markets, and it has put a lot of Americans out of business and out of work over the past several decades. So it's time for reciprocity. Joining me now is journalist and author Batia Ungasargon. Batia, Caroline Levitt there, giving the media some facts and figures, and there's polling today showing Americans think Donald Trump is too focused on tariffs and should be more focused on inflation, but the two issues are of course linked.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, Rita. It's great to be here with you. These are definitely linked. The reason inflation hits working class people so hard is because they don't have enough money not to notice it, not to notice the increase in prices. And the way that you fix that is by getting them more money. And the way to get them more money is not by simply raising taxes on the rich and redistributing it and giving them handouts. They don't want that. It's by creating a marketplace in which the product of their labor is more expensive, and then their labor becomes more expensive, and then they get more money to take home. And of course, this is win-win for working class people. They make more money and then they are more competitive as consumers in the marketplace. The people who don't like this are massive corporations, Wall Street, and other rich people who think they should be able to employ their neighbors for pennies on the dollar for the kinds of wages they would never dream of working for. So, you know, this whole tariff product is designed to help struggling working class Americans. So, of course, rich people are going to be very angry about it. They're supposed to be. Trump is waging class warfare against the elites on behalf of the working class. The elites are supposed to be very angry, and that's what you're seeing in Wall Street and in the stock market. You are seeing rich elites who hate Donald Trump punishing him for standing up for the American working class.
And it's been interesting to see so many of the elites, so many of these left-leaning, very earnest types arguing for illegal immigration, essentially, because who else is going to do those jobs at those wages? And it's the sort of argument you could have put forward to defend slavery. And that point seems to be lost on them, that this is neither good for the people you're bringing in or enticing to come in illegally to work for these low wages, and it's certainly not good for the American working class, who are then also having to compete with illegal immigrants for those low-skilled jobs.
Yeah, remember Nancy Pelosi going out there and saying, but who will pick the crops? Or Jasmine Crockett, I know a favorite of yours, Rita, who a few weeks ago was giving a speech in which she said to the audience, nobody here wants their children to go into hospitality. I'm sorry, the majority of people who work in hospitality in America are American citizens by a wide margin. Why are you out there insulting people who do an honest job for a living, who work really hard, and you're out there sneering, telling an educated audience, well, you would rather die than see your child go into this industry? What kind of a message does that send to your fellow Americans? And it's so connected to other crises we see, the crisis in masculinity, because effectively what we did was we shipped 5 million very good working class masculine macho manufacturing jobs overseas, and then we imported millions and millions of people into this country to work in janitorial service, landscaping, construction, jobs that rely on brawn, that used to be jobs that working class men could get a lot of dignity out of. And what message that sends them? This job is beneath the dignity of an American. Of course, men feel like they've been totally degraded in the marketplace, in the dating market, in society, in their families. It's really horrifying, and the downstream effects of this are enormous.
Now, we saw polls released earlier today also showing that most Americans, despite the media meltdown, are supportive of Donald Trump's deportation policy, with 58% backing that policy. And on the deportation front, there was this update again earlier today, complete with incredible footage. Let's have a look at this. It's like a motion picture, this stuff, but it's indeed real. It's 17 gangbangers, the worst of the worst here, murderers and child rapists, being transferred to El Salvador. But here, this policy, despite the media campaign, remains popular.
Absolutely. How could you not cheer that? How could you not cheer like the humiliation of child rapists? This is a great day in America. And that video is testimony to yet another world leader getting on his knees and begging Donald Trump for a scrap of approval. And it's so amazing, Rita, because you would think that Americans would love that. They would love to see world leaders getting on their knees and begging Donald Trump for a scrap of approval, because they know that he's going to put America first. But of course, as we know, the liberal elites hate this. They worship weakness. They loathe power and they loathe strength. So of course they're out there denouncing the proper treatment of gangbangers and child rapists. But we, Rita, we will rejoice.
Now, I mentioned 60 Minutes a little bit earlier, and this remarkable exchange.
the terrorists became very mean and very cruel and violent.
More so.
Much more so. They were beating me and starving me.
Do you think they starved you, or they just didn't have food?
No, I think they starved me.
On the same episode, we heard not just about the physical, but also the psychological torture inflicted on hostages. This is Yardan Bibas, whose wife and children were kidnapped and murdered.
They were murdered in cold blood, bare hands. They used to tell me, doesn't matter, you get a new wife, get a new kids, better wife, better kids.
They said that to you?
Yeah, many times. Many times.
It's hard to fathom just how depraved that all is, to tell a father whose children you've murdered, don't bother grieving them, you'll get better kids.
Yeah, I mean, it says a lot about Hamas, which is that, you know, human life means nothing to them. They cannot imagine being attached enough to a wife or children that you would actually grieve them. The Lesley Stahl interview, the 60 Minutes interview, you noticed what she did there, right? She was carrying water for Hamas. She was saying to him, did they really starve you? Are you sure they didn't just run out of food because of the evil Israelis?
Yes.
I mean, can you imagine at this stage carrying water for Hamas? And the truth is that the liberal mainstream media just cannot quit Hamas. No matter what they do, there is some instinct in them that tries to rescue Hamas, carry water for them, and rescue their reputation. It is unfathomable how the leftist mainstream media are the stenographers of terrorists.
It is incredible that she would come up with that question and then keep it in the interview, because as we know, they record hours, so there was no reason to keep that exchange. But obviously, 60 Minutes, they thought that was a perfectly appropriate question to ask a man who's been tortured, starved, kept hostage for all those months. Or maybe your captors didn't have food. I mean, we've seen the Hamas captors at these disgusting handover ceremonies they have, and none of them are suffering from malnutrition. I would ask you about Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth. He has upset the left again, this time with a tattoo. Reportedly, it's a new tattoo. It's in Arabic, and it's a symbol of defiance. Do you know what the meaning behind this tattoo and why it's enraging the left so much?
So the tattoo says kafir, which means infidel, which is what Islamists call people who are fair game for being killed. You know, the Islamist, the radical Islam that we have today, that we're dealing with today, is an imperialist vision. They want a world caliphate, and they believe that they should be able to rule. And anybody who is an infidel is, you know, fair game. Their life does not count for anything. And it's his defiance. He's saying, come at me, come get me. I am exactly that thing that you fear and that you loathe and that you hate and that you want to kill. And I think, honestly, pretty cool, pretty sexy. I'm not above admitting that.
It is actually an awesome tattoo. I don't have any tattoos, but I reckon that would be on the short list if I were to get one. That is just a kick-ass message right there. It's saying to the extremists, I'm not ashamed, come get me. Yeah, it's no, I've got to say, and if it's upsetting all the right people, that just makes it even better. Now, but Tia, I'm still not sure whether this next story is an April Fool's joke or not. It was certainly released, this information, well before April 1 here in Australia, and that is that Kamala Harris, yes, the failed vice presidential candidate, is heading to Australia to a real estate conference. She's going to headline a real estate conference on the Gold Coast, where she's rumoured to be paid $500,000, not sure that that's US or Australian dollars, to deliver one of her infamous word salads. Can you believe this?
It's kind of a keyhole, like a window into how the elites operate, which is they confer upon each other credentials. And then for the honor of having those credentials, they pay each other a lot of money to listen to what each other have to say. And that's the whole game, really, is you go to an elite university, you get these elite credentials, you become part of the club. That credential was given to you by an equally godless, empty-headed, you know, immoral, amoral character. And then as a result of having that credential, you can then, do things like run for office, even though you haven't been able to show any success, any accomplishments, and then you will simply fail up higher and higher and higher, at which point you will be able to ask for $500,000 for word salad. And that really is the whole game of it. And I think that it is infuriating, and it should be infuriating. It's funny, but it's also, there's something about it that is like really, really, really insulting to people who actually work really hard and whose jobs actually matter. I mean, Kamala Harris, it doesn't matter if she knows what she's talking about at the end of the day. That's what we learned from her entire career. But there are people out there who make a fraction of what she makes, whose jobs actually really matter. And if they mess things up, people die, and what do they have to show for it?
This is going to be hilarious. If this actually happens, I'm still in disbelief about it. I really am. And who's going to be buying tickets for this? I mean, the real estate agents probably just want to be on the Gold Coast for the big party. It's normally a bit of a junket from what I understand. They're not there for the speeches, but headlining Kamala Harris, really? Now, before you go, I've got to ask you about Columbia University. New York Post reports that fresh from botching the response to the pro-Palestinian protest on campus and the Trump administration threatening to pull $400 million in federal grants, well, they may have fresh problems at Columbia with the once prestigious school having students not accept offers. This is according to a top admissions consultant. This is reputational damage that is hard to recover from, Batia.
There's the reputational damage. There's the fact that many Jewish students are not going to go there. I bet you also a lot of international students who really like Hamas are now thinking twice about applying to Columbia because they know that they're not going to get a pass. I wonder if that visa issue is also impacting the enrollment because, of course, these universities make a lot of money off of foreign students. So I think, we're really seeing a sea change here, and it is 100% the result of the Trump administration pulling off once again things that I thought were totally impossible, like trying to get elite universities to behave in a moral way.
It is a new era in the US. Batia Unga-Sargon, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. God bless you, Rita.